Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today is the February 1st, 4 p.m. Glendale Water and Power Commission meeting. We're doing this today via video teleconference. And with that, let's get started. If we can have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Flanagan?
Here.
Commissioner Jasmadarian?
Here.
Commissioner Lau?
Present.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
President Kadikian?
Here. Before we move to the consent item, I would like to thank our new commissioner, Joel Peterson. And Mr. Peterson is an appointee of Councilman Ardi Kasakian. And with that, thank you and welcome, Commissioner. And if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, this is an opportunity. Maybe others could know about you as well.
Thank you for the welcome, and it's a privilege to join this commission and have the opportunity to add what small value I might be able to do. I currently serve as the Director of Facilities and Construction for Glendale Community College District. And prior to that, I was Assistant Vice President for Capital Projects and Facilities and Operations for Harry Mudd College. I've had a number of different corporate positions and have been a long-term resident in the local area, originally living when I moved to California in La Cañada, and then moving to Glendale about 10 years ago. I served 8 years on the La Cañada Unified School Board and was privileged to work very closely with my counterparts on the GUSD School Board Administration as well, on many shared facts. So Glendale community is something that I'm very is near and dear to my heart. My wife grew up in Glendale, and so it's something that it's nice to be able to have the opportunity to give back.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson, and you're welcome. We look forward to working with you, and I'm sure your input will be valuable. I'll give a chance to my fellow commissioners if they want to say anything. Go ahead before I move on.
I'll jump in and also say welcome, Joel. It's great to have you on board. I've had the privilege of working with you, looking at doing some energy analysis for the college, and I really respect you. So I'm thrilled that you're on the commission, and I'm sure you'll be a guiding light in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll say also, this is Commissioner Lull speaking. Welcome, and I really look forward to working with you and welcome your perspective coming from higher education as to the challenges and opportunities that you've encountered there. And I know we'll learn a lot from you. So thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to learning from all of you.
Okay. All right, Madam Secretary, if we can move to the next item, please.
Item 2A, approval of the October 5th, 2020 meeting minutes.
I will move to approve them.
If we can get a second. Commissioner Flanagan, you're muted.
Unmute, Ted.
Sorry about that. I will second it.
Okay.
My last name was misspelled. Maybe there's other misspellings. I have a correction or a comment on the next set of meeting minutes, but I guess are we moving to the November 2nd meeting minutes?
We'll get there in 1 minute, Commissioner Flanagan. Okay, so do we have a vote on this? Catalina, do you do it with the roll call? It's been a while.
We could do a roll call.
Sure.
Commissioner Flanagan?
Yes. Approved.
Jasmadarian?
Yes.
Law?
Yes.
Peterson? Oh, sorry.
Abstain.
Sorry. President Kadikian?
Yes. Okay, let's move on to the next item.
At 2B, approval of the November 2nd, 2020 meeting minutes.
Okay. Commissioners, if you have any comments?
I do. I think there's a missing end of a sentence in item 3A. at the end of the second paragraph. Whoever wrote that, I think maybe just needs to add a phrase, but it's minor. So.
Minor. Thank you.
Okay. Christine, by the way, can I move things, or as the president, I cannot?
Typically, the president cannot pass the gavel and do it, but
No, it's okay.
perhaps someone else can move.
Yeah, could we have somebody to move this forward if it's all agreeable?
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, and let's have a roll call. Catalina?
Commissioner Flanagan,
Yes.
Jess Medallion,
Yes.
Law,
Yes.
President Kadikian.
Yes. All right, let's go to the next item, which is GWP Commission Staff and Comments. Let's start with, so that we keep things in order, I'll just call on each commissioner one at a time, and you can have your comments, and then I'll move to staff. Well, let's start with staff. Does the staff have any comments?
Yes, President, this is Mark Young. I am the acting interim general manager in February, which is one of my comments. The AGMs of GWP will be sharing the interim GM position for 1 month. Unfortunately, Dan just finished his month. Dan Scorza finished his month. I'm February. March is Michael DeGhetto, and April is Craig Keenan. So you'll get the opportunity to talk to each one of us during your meetings. Second comment is welcome aboard, Commissioner Peterson. We look forward to working with you, especially with all the exciting things that GWP is encountering right now. And we'd like to thank Commissioner Avanesian for all the hard work that he's done on the committee.
Thank you, Mark. And let's move on to the commissioners. If any of the commissioners have any comments, since I see everybody and everybody sees everybody, maybe you guys could take the initiative and start talking, and we'll figure it out. Anybody have any comments?
This is Commissioner Law. I'd like to thank our previous commissioner, Mr. Avanesian, for his contributions to the commission and to the city. It really was a pleasure to work with him, and I'm guessing, although I don't know for sure, that we will have the opportunity to present him with a plaque or another appropriate thank you gift. I hope when the pandemic is over. Again, I want to extend a warm welcome to our new commissioner, and also I hope we'll have the opportunity to wish the previous general manager a fond farewell and thank him for his many years of service to the city. It certainly was a very, very interesting time to join the commission when I joined 5 years ago now, almost 6 years. And to work through the CEQA process on Grayson with him. So I just hope that we'll have the opportunity to wish him well at a future date. And of course, I'm speaking about Mr. Zern.
Thank you, Commissioner Lal. And any of the other commissioners would like to make any comments? Okay, all right. Ted, you're muted, so you're shaking your head no, so I'm just going with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with that said, again, I'd like to also thank Commissioner Avanesian for his service, and I am hopeful once this COVID subsides and we can get together, we could present him and give him the recognition that he has deserved, that he does deserve for the work he has done. With that said, I think it's time for the next item, which is the GWP Commission election for President and Secretary. And I'm going to pass it on to Christine Godinez, who is the attorney for the Commission, and she will go ahead and conduct the procedure on getting the next President and Secretary elected.
Thank you, President Kadikian, members of the Commission. So I think historically, this GWP commission has done its elections in November, but we haven't met in a few months. So now's the appropriate time to do so. So we've had the secretary position vacant at this time, and we do have President Kadikian as our president. So we need to nominate both. So I think typically the way this is done is that we open the nominations first for secretary. So I'd like to open the nominations to the floor for any of the commissioners to nominate anyone for the secretary position.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Jasmine as secretary.
Okay, great. Commissioner Jasmine, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the position of secretary? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations for secretary and open the nominations for president of the GWP Commission. Are there any nominations for position of president of the commission?
I nominate Mr. Flanagan as the president.
Commissioner Flanagan, do you accept that nomination?
I do. It would be a pleasure.
Are there any other nominations for the position of president? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations for president. And though it seems obvious, given that there's one for each, we'll go ahead and hold the election. So first, for the position of secretary, all those in, well, maybe we need to do a voice vote, Catalina, remote format. Can you do a voice vote for the position, for the nomination of Commissioner Jasmine as secretary of the commission?
Okay. Commissioner Flanagan,
Yes.
do I call her name for the nomination? I do? Okay.
They're going to ask each one, yeah, if they affirm.
Commissioner Jasmadarian,
Okay, I affirm.
Commissioner Law? Commissioner Law?
She's frozen up.
Mhm.
Commissioner Law?
Maybe you can come back to her.
Okay, I'll come back to her. Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kadikian?
Yes.
Commissioner Law?
Mr. Roger.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Commissioner Law? I don't think she can hear us.
Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. So now it's for president. Commissioner, sorry, Commissioner Flanagan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jasmadarian.
Yes.
Commissioner Law.
You all are frozen. I'm not frozen. I vote yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kadikian.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I symbolically hand over the gavel. And good luck, President Flanagan.
Well, thank you very much, former President Kadikian. I appreciate it. And am I the facilitator,
Yes.
Christine? Do I go to the next item? Okay.
You are indeed. I hope that's okay.
I can hear you.
Thank you. I'm okay. That's good. You just keep me in line. But let's have the next item, please.
5 reports. 5A, Renewable Portfolio, Standard, Clean Energy, and Power Content Label.
Well, congratulations, Mr. President, for taking over
Nodding
this
my head,
prestigious
yes.
time. This is Mark Young, and I'd like to introduce the GWP Risk Manager, who will be presenting to you the Renewable Portfolio Standards and the Power Content Label. It's Howard Wong.
Good evening. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Can everybody see the slides?
Yes.
First slide.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and I'm gonna have to change my notes. Now the president has changed, so I need to mark out that and put anyway. Okay, so good evening, President Flanagan and members of GWP Commission. My name is Howard Wong, and I serve as GWP's Energy Risk Manager. I'll be sharing with you how the City of Glendale is doing in regards to our renewable portfolio and power content makeup. This is part of California Energy Commission's annual reporting requirement. Please stop me at any time if you have any questions, and I will do my best to answer them. So a little background, the Renewable Portfolio Standard Requirement, or RPS, was started back in 2002 with Senate Bill 1078, and it's based on a utility's renewable electricity serving its customers, guiding California to a cleaner energy state. Through several iterations and updates, the current requirement is 60% renewable energy serving retail customers by 2030 and 100% clean energy by 2045. We also have to abide by compliance targets calculated every 3 to 4 years. And another caveat is that for any renewable contract to count towards RPS, the term must be at least 10 years. Some of you may be wondering what the difference is between renewable energy and clean energy. So based on California's regulations, all renewable energy is clean, but not all clean energy is renewable for RPS compliance. Here's a list of resources that fall into each category. So you have solar and wind generation, small-scale hydro, methane from landfills, and underground heat sources. So those are considered renewable energy. Nuclear power is not considered renewable, as well as new large hydro projects like the Hoover Dam due to environmental impact. However, those resources are considered zero carbon. The RPS program is broken down into compliance periods. Each compliance period consists of 3 to 4 years. These soft targets lead up to an overall goal of 60% by 2030. Also, GWP staff utilizes their own self-directed annual targets. The City of Glendale has successfully complied with compliance period 1 and 2. Period 3 just ended, and we have moved into compliance period 4. 2020 data is still being finalized, but GW can report 33% compliance for period 3. So this chart provides historical percentages for the true power content mix for the City of Glendale, dating back to 2008. The City of Glendale was considered an early adopter of renewable energy and was awarded renewable energy credits for those contracts executed prior to 2010. Glendale adopted its first RPS policy back in 2003, 8 years before the first RPS compliance period. Early RPS resources include our Shoal Canyon landfill gas, producing approximately 61,000 megawatt hours a year, or 5% retail sales. This is again before it was shut down and flared. Glendale signed its first long-term renewable contract in 2003 with Pacific Corp, now Avangrid, for 9 megawatts of wind power from High Winds project for 25 years. Other RPS agreements signed prior to 2010 are Pleasant Valley, which is wind, Ormat, which is the geothermal project, Pebble Springs, another wind project, and Tieton, which is hydro. As you can see, there are spikes in percentages in 2014 through 2016. This is due to cost-effective short-term opportunities at that time. We were trying to procure excess renewables to replace future shortfalls from the loss of Shoal Canyon, and in preparation for the loss of Grayson Power Plant during the repower project, which was in discussions at that time. As I stated, procuring certain excess renewables and retiring the associated credits can be used in future compliance periods. These amounts are over the minimum compliance requirement. So, as you can see, this last compliance period that we just finished, our true percentages on that first line, 37, 36, 36, is above the minimum compliance, which you see in the bottom under the green section, with the soft targets of 27, 29, 31, and 33%. So any percentage above those we can actually use in future years. RPS is state regulation, whereas power content is the true makeup of our resources in our portfolio. So here's a distinction between RPS compliance and clean energy requirements. RPS compliance currently ends in 2030, and all renewable and clean energy counts towards the 100% goal by 2045, as indicated by the blue line and then the red line. This is also based on the SIN's load analysis and not inclusive of system electrification and 100% EV initiative that's currently being discussed. This only includes Glendale's share of 5 million EVs on the road and not the new policy of no gas-powered vehicles by 2035, which will greatly increase our electric load. Again, I wanted to mention that to count towards compliance, renewable energy agreements must be at least 10 years in term without major modification. Most agreements are even longer due to the financial requirements of the project. It's not a perfect puzzle, but we have to layer in our projects. We are also sensitive to the City Council's request to leave room for changing technologies and pricing. Currently, we have seen more opportunities with pricing than the advancement of technology. I thought it was important to include the blue section in the chart, which is Shoal Canyon's renewable contribution, which has been approved as part of GWP's integrated resource plan. Similar slide to the previous one, but this is our plan broken down by separate projects. This includes our Eland Solar and Battery Storage Project that was recently executed, our Open Mountain Geothermal projects depicted, but we are still in negotiations with our clean energy project and our Milford Solar and Battery Storage. And we're constantly exploring additional opportunities as well. So the dark green in the chart, that's where our shortfall is, where we have to secure additional projects. The lightest green is our clean energy, which is your nuclear or large hydro. So we are looking at meeting compliance utilizing these strategies. I mentioned our soft targets, our IRP, Integrated Resource Plan, long-term agreements, and excess procurement. We have acquired a modeling tool called PowerSim to help us with our analysis and studies. And we're currently exploring our clean energy projects, including the virtual power plant. You always have risks and concerns. So here are some of ours for our RPS and clean energy. As we know, regulations can always change to respond to our ever-changing environment. While our excess renewable carryover may be unable to be used in future years, unfortunately, renewable opportunities do not wait until they fit perfectly into our portfolio. So some years we might have excess and some years we may not. Available transmission is always a concern as well. Retail load uncertainty. So I mentioned, the 100% EV on the roads, that will greatly adjust our load values. And again, our existing integrated resource plan only accounts for the city's share of 5 million cars currently. Another risk is the penalty for not meeting compliance. So potentially 200 megawatts times 24 hours, 4,800 megawatt hours, you could have an impact of $250,000 in penalties per day. And right now we're in discussions with our clean energy program, but are they able to deliver on their promises? And do we have enough time and available opportunities to replace the shortfall? And the last thing I'm going to mention is the Shoal Canyon again, ensuring it's repowered. So not only do we need Shoal Canyon for RPS, but it's able to be captured, being able to capture the methane to reduce overall emissions is important as well, because our emissions have increased due to the flaring. Here's our power content mix between 2018 and 2019. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be much change, but our renewable percentage increased by 2.2%. This is because PCC3 or unbundled RECs cannot be used in the power content calculation starting in 2019 as it did in 2018, and it's slowly being phased out. So that's an important concept I want you kind of to keep in the back of your mind. Behind the meter solar does not count as well, but 4% of solar will be added to this from the Sunrun project because it's going to be in front of the meter. And next year, our geothermal power will be included in our 2020 figures. These numbers will continually increase as our renewable projects become commercially operational. One thing you'll notice too, which one of the city council members did ask, why did our solar drop from 2% to 0? Our solar makeup in 2018 was mainly due to short-term bucket 3 purchases, which we did not make in 2019. All right. Over the last few years, the city of Glendale has been a leader in achieving a higher renewable portfolio percentage as compared to our neighboring utilities and the state of California as a whole. Our strategy is to improve year over year on a consistent basis, and you can see that based on this chart starting in 2016. Now, you can see that Pasadena did have a 45% renewable power content in 2018. And let me kind of explain how that happened. So Pasadena took a different strategy, not an incorrect strategy, but a different strategy. They reported a greater amount of bucket 3 RECs in 2018 that inflated the renewable percentage for 1 year. So this isn't wrong to do, just a different strategy to meet the in-compliance goal. I do, however, want to point out, as compared to Glendale, under the coal section, coal, is probably the dirtiest of the types of generation you can get. Glendale, we have 3% as compared to 41% for Pasadena. So I just wanted to mention that important fact. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Do any of the members or president have any questions?
Ted, you're muted.
Sorry, I guess it mutes itself. Thank you very much, Roland. Thank you very much for an excellent presentation, and I will obviously hold my comments until the other commissioners have had a chance. Commissioner Lal, do you have comments and questions? Commissioner Lal, are you with us?
Sorry, I'm struggling with a new iPad. So now I'm unmuted.
Very good.
I hope. This is a lot of information to synthesize quickly. And I'm looking through the RPS compliance periods, trying to make sure I really understand that the blue and gray graph and where we are on that graph being, right here in the first quarter of 2021. So I'm still thinking this through. So if you all want to go ahead and ask your questions, and if anything comes to mind, I will pipe up.
Very good. Very good. Commissioner Jasmadarian, do you have any questions or comments?
Just going down to the graph with the, I think it was the dark green where there needs to be a lot more done. The one after this, I think it is where that gap is. So other than the projects that are already happening, what are there plans for other projects in the works that we're going to be introduced to soon regarding these gaps that are coming along? I mean, they're still quite a ways away, but are there long-term plans for any of this?
Marco might be able to answer that better than I can, but I do believe there are definitely projects that have been introduced, and we are in discussions, but we're not close enough in the phase where we actually have a term sheet that we're negotiating with council, or not council, with legal or with SCAPA or the other participants. But I know there are projects in the works.
Okay, thank you.
I can elaborate on that a little bit, commissioners. We go monthly to the SCAPA working group to see if there's any viable projects that we could group together to go ahead and procure. There are many in the works. I guess there was some uncertainty with the investment tax credit and the rush to get those taken care of in time. They're extended, so the projects will continue. One of our problems is that we have very limited transmission, and where we have the most transmission, it doesn't free up until 2027. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any projects that are going to be introduced now for a 2027 delivery. So we're continuously looking at projects. We're trying to layer them in so that at the end of 20 or 25 years, we're not subjecting ourselves to having to radically replace them. So if we can layer them in a controlled environment, they'll, on the back end, be able to fall off in a manageable sequence. And you can see in the chart here that that's where the projection is.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Kadikian, question?
Yes, Howard, I have two questions. I'm going to ask them and then I'll pass it on to you. You could answer both. First, you mentioned Glendale shares of cars, 5 million. I'm not sure what that 5 million is. Maybe you can explain it to us, because there's only 200,000 people living in Glendale. So I'm sure a lot of people question what that is. Probably there's a good explanation that you could tell us about it. The second question I have is with regards to slide number 5. I see wind, our percentage in wind dropping substantially from compliance period 2 to compliance period 3. That's slide number 5. There we go. It used to be, the prior one. Yeah, it used to be 24%, 20%, 26%, and now it's 17, 15, and 12. I was wondering what's going on there as well. Thank you.
I believe the 5 million number of cars is the state of California, and I don't have the exact number here in front of me, and I can get you that, but it's just Glendale's share of the 5 million for our city.
Oh, I see. We're not, okay. We just have a portion of that 5 million to deal with.
Correct.
Okay.
Our streets would be too busy if we had that many. As with the drop in our percentages of wind, I believe we had some long-term contracts that just ended, and so we have to just replace those. You know, they do have a certain term, and some contracts aren't renewed, and some would just naturally expire. And I can get the exact contract as well for you.
Is expected to deliver an ultimatum to Republican leadership today, and that is this: to strip Georgia.
I think we're hearing somebody's television in the back. Are there other questions, Commissioner Kadikian?
No, thank you, Howard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Peterson, do you have any questions or comments?
Just one comment might be is a follow-up to Commissioner Kadikian's question about the cars. Again, the 5 million might be referring to maybe the Southern California area. I recall that I think California as a state has something over 15 million cars. So if you could maybe track that down and kind of understand how the Glendale allocation may be calculated and how that may affect us going forward.
Yes, Commissioner Peterson, this is Mark Young. The California Energy Commission has a calculator that will calculate Glendale's share of Jerry Brown's edict of 5 million cars, EV cars on the road. So the 5
so those are
million
just
cars
EV cars, got it.
Is the EV cars that Jerry Brown was committing to, and the CEC has a formula to show what Glendale's share of those 5 million cars would be.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. It's
Yes,
the EV cars.
Thank you, Mark.
And I'll just chime in, Howard. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I guess I just like to thank all the staff at Glendale Water and Power. When we see this transition going on, it's very exciting. In the past 8 years, coal has dropped from 36% of our mix, I think, to 3% of our mix. Natural gas is once considered the prince of the hydrocarbons. That's still our biggest fossil fuel source, and that's what we're going to be working on replacing over probably the next 10 years. But I find it a very exciting thing, and proud that we have had excess. And I understand, Howard, that you're saying that that's one of the regulatory threats, that we may lose the rights to that excess. But I would just say that I think excess is a good thing. I'm on the commission, and I think some of the others are too. We care about the planet, so we may not do what's optimal economically, but we also are placing a value on the environment. And so I think if Glendale is ahead of the game, that is 3 cheers again. 3 cheers to staff. Whether or not we get the carryovers, I find less relevant to that. Howard, I just have one question. I see that we're, I think, 10% unspecified, and I presume that if you're unspecified, it's not renewable. What is it?
Yeah. It doesn't count towards renewable, President Flanagan. It's spot purchases. It could be substitute power if a line is curtailed and the counterparty needs to replace that power, within the hour. And it can't be tracked, so we can't count it towards our RPS or our compliance.
Very good. Thank you. And again, thank you for a great presentation. Very well presented.
Thank you very much.
I believe we're ready for the next item.
5B, a 4 kV to 12 kV conversion program update.
Sorry, members of the commission. This is Mark Young again. I thought that Dan was going to talk. This 4 kV to 12 kV conversion program PowerPoint will be presented by Dan Scorza, who's the Chief AGM of TND with GWP.
So, are you guys seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me move on. Okay. So, last time, I guess, a question came up on the conversion process. So one of the programs that GWP has had over the years is converting our distribution system from the original existing 4 kV to 12 kV. And I'm going to cover why we're doing this. It also kind of prepares the city for more of the renewable resources or distribution, DERs, distributed energy resources that we're putting in. 4 to 12 kV is going to help us with not only integrating additional solar / energy storage devices, but it will also help us to prepare for additional EV charging. When we go from 4 to 12 kV, we're actually increasing the amount of power that can be transferred through our distribution system. So let me get into it and we'll cover all this. Okay, so in this presentation, we're gonna look at the Glendale Power System overview, why do the conversion, what's being converted, and there you can see the, what's been done in the last 5 years, and then some comparisons with adjacent cities as well. Okay. So the city of Glendale has a population of about 206,000, 31 square miles, and you got the number of distribution miles there. And then you see 2 percentages there. It's interesting when we look at how many circuits that we have lengthwise. About 77% is already 12 kV, but 23% is 4 kV. But that doesn't paint a true picture. This is true when we look at it. We're far along, but when we look at the number of feeders, so the feeders are the circuits coming out of our substations. We have a total of 105 feeders. 58 of them are 12 kV, but 47 are still 4 kV. So we're greater than 50% if we look at the number of feeders, but we still have 47 of them to convert. And then I have some statistics about the subtransmission miles, because the electrical infrastructure in the city isn't just distribution, there's subtransmission. Subtransmission is the interconnection between our substations, which we have 14 of them listed there. Okay. An interesting fact, we have about 15,000 poles, and then we have about 89,000 or 90,000 meters. Let's go on to the next slide. So why do we do the conversion? The reason we do the conversion is to increase our efficiency. So those of you who have an electrical background, one of the things that occurs is that when you increase the voltage, the current drops accordingly, but the losses are the square of the current. So there's a big efficiency gain that we get on those circuits that are being converted 4 to 12. So if we lower the current, we get a much better, more efficient transfer of energy on our distribution system. Also, what happens is that on the same wire, so you could imagine this as a pipe, on the same wire, by increasing the voltage 3 times, which we're doing, we can carry 3 times the amount of power. So this gives our distribution system the capability to transfer 3 times the amount of load. Therefore, for example, we're looking in terms of our renewable resources that are coming on board. So we can have, more EVs, all electric homes, distributed solar plus energy storage. And again, we don't know the exact numbers when these events happen. We don't know how many EVs we're going to get. As we were talking about the 5 million now with Governor Newsom's new mandate for 2035, that's going to increase. And that's why one of the things that we're doing is one of the contracts that we have in GWP is that we do a study annually to ensure that our distribution system can handle the increases in solar, electric vehicles, any distributed resources that are being put into the city. It will sort of give us a way of making sure that we're ahead of whatever is coming in terms of load and generation resources within the distribution system. So part of the one of the contracts we have for engineering is to do a study on an annual basis. And right now the contract, I believe, will run for 4 years, and then we'll renew that to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve as load and transfer capabilities become an important number to look at to ensure that our system is ready to accept these additional loads. So what's being converted? It's our distribution system that's being converted from 4 to 12 kV. And our subtransmission system is being converted in a sense in that right now what we have to do within the substations is whatever 4 kV circuits we have to convert them to 12 kV by changing out the transformers. Eventually, what we also want to do on our substation transmission system is also go to 69 kV, which is twice the voltage. That will allow us to transfer twice the amount of power between our substations. Let's go to the next slide. In the last 5 years, we've been doing some conversion projects. They're listed here on this slide. These are long-term items. It takes a while to do. It takes a lot of staff time to do it. So here's the description that you see. So one of the strategies that we're moving forward is that we're realizing that at the current pace that the Glendale Water and Power is doing, which is about right now, because of the current staffing levels that we have, we can only do 2 conversions per year. Well, if we have 47, it's going to take us more than 20 years to do these conversions. To alleviate that issue, we're going out to contract, to get a contractor to assist us in doing this. The plan is to eventually have 4 conversions done per year with a contractor. And so we start out slowly as we put the contract in place. And our hope is that we can do 4 per contract and then 2 in-house. Eventually, the long-term goal in this line item here is that we can do this in-house, but we would have to increase our headcount on our line mechanic staffing members to 10. So eventually, if we could do that, then we can bring that work totally in-house. Continue. So on the conversion plan, one of the things that we do is we kind of wanted to see where we were. And I believe it was brought on, a question came to our general manager before and city council. And we were asked, where are you now? And why haven't we done more of this conversion if it's that beneficial? Well, as I said before, 77% of our 12 kV by length is already 12 kV by length of our distribution system, and 23% is only 4 kV. But if we look at it in terms of feeders, we're still about 50%. There's 47 that need to be converted. A question also came up, do we benefit during heat waves from having our circuits at 12 kV? Well, the heat wave is a different mechanism. When we build our distribution system, we build it for a temperature that you normally see within the city. Equipment's rated in a certain way, and it depends on how much loading there is. If the temperature stays at 115 degrees for several days, well, the distribution system isn't built to operate at that high level of temperature and high level of load. Normally what we do is annually, and we do this continuously, we're constantly looking at how the distribution load flows through our transformers, through our 105 feeders. And we're constantly adjusting how much power flows through each of those feeders. If one feeder is underserved and the other one is overserved, we would move some of the load to the underserved feeder. So that's how we balance the system. And then we balance it such that the transformer can hold within reasonable high temperatures the entire load that it's asked to carry. So there's always adjustments being done. The other thing is that we wanted to compare ourselves with the other utilities. And one of the things we noticed is our staff. Even though Burbank and Pasadena are smaller, they have a larger staff number. So that's something we'll have to work on to fix. And also, one of the ways we're addressing it immediately is by doing a contract. And that's why I wanted to give this presentation, is that we'll be taking to the city council a contract within the next month or so that will allow us to do the conversion using a contractor. Therefore, we will be doing our conversion process much quicker. And in addition to the 12 kV conversion, we're also looking at wildfire mitigation. And that includes installation of overhead covered wire. That's insulated wire that normally you would have that's not insulated on our distribution system. And it would also put coverings over the termination. And then we would also be upgrading the transformers for the 12 kV. These not only protect against problems with wildfires, but also prevents from mylar balloons and tree branches being in contact with our distribution wires. One of the things that we've also done is that we've stepped up our vegetation management. We're a lot more aggressive in terms of making sure vegetation is taken care of near our distribution lines so that they wouldn't come in contact or a tree branch wouldn't grow into it. So we're moving forward with that. And also related to the conversion process is also the substation work that's needed, because the the 4 kV transformers would no longer be needed. Those are removed. 12 kV transformers are put in there in replacing the 4 kVs. And then eventually we want to go to the standard of having 69 kVs from, so some of the 34 5 kV circuit equipment within the substations would be replaced. We continue on. In our annual report, we mention our circuits just so that you have an idea of what was done in our system. It's not just the conversion, there's a lot more work. We do substructure work, replace deteriorated poles, replace and install distribution transformers, just to give you an idea of what it takes to run a power system. The Adams Hill conversion, which is something I mentioned earlier before in our accomplishments, rebuilt 16 poles for 12 kV operation, replaced 31 deteriorated poles, replaced 13 distribution transformers. Yeah, one of the things that there's a lot to this, and that's why we need a contractor to help us to move forward. Otherwise, we were only able to convert 2 conversions per year from 4 to 12 kV. It's just very intensive in terms of staff working on it. And then we also have street lights to give you an idea there, what we've been doing, and then some of the substation work that we do. And I think that's it. So thank you very much. If President Flanagan and the commission have questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Well, thank you very much, Dan, for that excellent presentation. Fascinating topic. I know I have a few questions, but let's start with the other commissioners. Commissioner Lal, questions, comments?
Thank you, President Flanagan. Thank you for the presentation. How long does each conversion take, and how many staff are required to complete the work?
Okay, so generally, right now, it takes, in a year, we can do 2 conversions, and we have a staff of 19. Now, because there's all the other work I kind of showed, I put that in there as context. It generally takes a crew of 5 to do conversion of a distribution circuit, and it depends on the length and how many components there are. So there's 47 of them. At the current rate, we could only do 2 with the present staff that we have. Eventually, what we want to do is to be able to convert 4 of them per year using the contractor, and then 2 of them using the internal staff that we have. So we wanted to do 6 conversions per year. And if we do that with the present 46, 47 feeders that we have, we can do that in about 8 years. But realistically, it'll probably take us about 10 years to do this, but that's a lot better than the 24 years that we were looking before. And it takes, I would say, about, let's say crew 5, 6 months, if on and off. But if they were dedicated to it, they can probably do it in 3 months. And that's what the expectation is, that a crew of contractors using 5 folks can do 4 conversions. So every 3 months, we would have a conversion done. So 4 conversion takes 5 crew members. That's why if we can have an increase of 10 in our field staff force, we can probably bring this work in-house and manage it ourselves. And that's something that normally utilities want to do. It keeps, and since our crews are going to be working on this anyways, but they'll be working on 1 or 2 of them versus the 4 that the contractor is working on. But if we bring it in-house, it keeps our staff fresh on this conversion process. But once we do it, that's it. What we have to do is then maintain the system.
So It sounds like there's some discussion internally of having. I mean, are you discussing hiring more staff? Is that part of this conversation? Is having more people qualified to do this work on GWP staff rather than hiring contractors? I would imagine that it's less expensive than hiring contractors, but I don't know that.
Yeah. So eventually, that's where most utilities go. They do this in house. So, but there are instances where you want to finish a certain conversion because there's a lot of solar going up. There's a lot of electric vehicles being put in, and if we rely in our internal staff, we wouldn't be able to put those the resources in to go to 12 kV in time when those resources come online or the load increases. Therefore, right now, because we were looking at a 24-year period with present staff, and then it would take too long. So we don't want to do that. So right now, we're going to augment it with a contract. But eventually, we do want to have it in-house. And it takes a long time because the people, the staff that works on this, they come from an apprenticeship program that takes 4 years to train. And right now, line mechanics are a very tough commodity to keep. Sometimes what happens also, Commissioner Law, is that these guys are recruited by outside companies or adjacent utilities that may hire away staff. So it's very challenging. It's to keep your staff, train them, give them the work that they love to do, and then meet our requirements of putting this infrastructure in place to be utilized at the time when it's needed, especially as we're going through this transformation of having more renewable distributed resources throughout the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Jasmine, questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you for the good presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Kadikian, question?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay. I've got a couple questions. Again, I thought it was an excellent presentation. You took a very technical, wonky subject and I thought brought it down to a very useful level. Dan, what I don't understand is, do you view this as an upgrade that has a payback? In other words, are we able to sell more power or to enable more renewables? Is it seen as is there a payback on this, a return on this, or is it just seen more as a capital cost that's a sunk cost?
Well, one of the things that happens is that equipment ages. So one of the things is that when you're doing this type of work, you're looking at replacing aging equipment. We could replace it with 4 kV, but it wasn't going to be as efficient. So here's an opportunity to make it better, to be able to transfer more power and replace equipment that is aging. So it really kind of fixes several things. Is that equipment does age. Poles after 50 years have to be replaced. 50, 60 years they have to be replaced. Well, here's the opportunity to do it.
Dan, what I'm getting at is I'm sure you've had this discussion, but just edify us. Has there been discussion of just replacing them all at once? And if we are able to transmit more power, or if it truly does have these benefits, is it something that we should just contract out and do the whole system?
Well, okay, so that's one of the things. I think because of the wildfire situation and all the changes with distribution systems to be hardened and the replacement, there isn't the workforce. Even if contracted out, you couldn't get enough people to do this.
Okay.
So it is something that you have to do in a measured method, and 4 conversions per year is what we felt was possible to find good contractors. So as we go out there and do this, we're competing for a limited amount of labor that's out there to service all the utilities. So the same people that will be hiring, Edison's hiring, PG&E's hiring, Pasadena's hiring, LADWP is hiring. So it's sort of a competitive arena out there to hire these resources. So 4 is something that we felt we can do and find contractors to do it in.
And then I take it then you target those 4 or 6 conversions to those feeders where you have the most demand, the greatest problems, right?
That's right. So we'll be doing an annual review, if at least for annually minimum, if not more, to make sure that as we're doing, for example, the virtual power plant, where those rooftop solar and batteries are going to be put in, make sure those circuits are ready to accept that. So it's a combination. We would be looking at infrastructure age as well. Where does infrastructure have to be replaced because of age, and also where the loads are going to be in the future.
Very good. Just ballpark, how much does each one of these conversions cost for a feed?
Yeah, roughly it's $1 million per feed.
Okay, very good. And then my final question, really, you touched on streetlights, and I've kind of watched the utility replacing streetlights sort of one by one or as they burn out, and I wonder whether that's an old Yankee value that somebody has carried, which I admire. I'm a Yankee. I'm from the New England area. Is that a Yankee value? We can just do it ourselves. I've always been under the impression that it's better just to do a blanket retrofit and start reaping those savings right away. But where are we at? What percentage of our streetlights are done? And please react to that Yankee comment if you would. Thank you.
So in the last year, it looks like we've done 1,000. We have about 18,000 streetlights in Glendale. I'm looking at my map that I have.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that we're doing very well. We're also changing out, associated conduits. If you can see on slide 9, we got some of the numbers there. And I don't have the percentage in front of me, but it's high up there. Yeah, I would venture to guess there's probably only I don't know. I want to say we're 70% or so, rough guess. So we're almost there where we've converted them.
How much power do those new lanterns, how much power do they save? How much more efficient are they?
Okay, so the older ones would be, 500 watts, 400 watts, 300 watts. So the new ones that we're putting in, you're looking at 100, maybe 150 watts. So it's 1/3 in terms, because we use LEDs, and they'll give off more light. And then the challenge is to get the right combination of the LED so that and the color so that it sort of pleases the neighborhoods. Each neighborhood has their own opinion on what the light color should look like, and if it's different, we get a lot of complaints from the neighborhoods. So we're very careful in that design when we go out there. We try to match what was there before. We also have we also meet with the different neighborhood home associations as we're going to be changing things out, so we get their input.
Yeah, they've been slowly changing them because I live near Brand Park, and I've seen how they've been sort of creeping up the hill. And over the last few nights, I noticed I was really having trouble sleeping, and I thought my neighbor had their floodlight on because they have like a motion activated light. And then I realized that the light outside of my house is now this very bright white light, which I assume is the new LEDs, as opposed to the old, did they call it sodium lighting?
Yeah, the sodium.
And I'm glad that it's more efficient, but boy, it is bright. It is a bright bluey white light.
Okay, and I've had residents ask to look at it, we try to match them. That they're not, one for one. They won't look alike.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest benefit is that it will be a lot more efficient. It's 1/3 of the consumption, and we do try to match the light that's out there. Sometimes we don't get it right, and we might have to change a bulb out to make it correct. But the staff carefully looks at what's being put out there and make sure that the lights that go in there are appropriate. And we also look at other things. There's safety in terms of street light for automobiles and the amount of light that hits on the ground. Some of the old lights may have not matched that. So there's a lot of factors, and sometimes it does affect residents' homes. So it does getting used to it. I mean, I live in Glendale too. I have the same thing, but eventually the additional light does seem to help, and in terms of the lighting that's on the ground and safety for cars and pedestrians, especially now since of COVID, where there's a lot more people walking around, and I think that the street lights are sort of the safety factor that should be there as well as what Public Works puts out there with the little slow down little signs that they put in the middle of the streets. Those are great. My wife loves them. My kids love them. But the street lights will also help them to be more visible.
Has there been any discussion regarding the color of these replacement LED lights and the effect on wildlife?
I know we tried to match the color to what was there previously, but also how much light was going to be on the ground. I don't know if we've looked at wildlife. That's something I could take back to staff and ask, and see if we can get an answer for you.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate the discussion of lighting color temperature, which is measured in degrees Kelvin. And my company just completed a big lighting retrofit out in Murrieta, and we adhere to the Dark Sky Association's color recommendations, which is really important to people that want to be able to see the heavens. But thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments about this presentation, or should we move on?
President Finnegan, we do have a speaker for this item.
Okay, thank you.
Victoria Valentine, you're on the air.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, we can.
I just wanted to say I was surprised to hear the report on 5B. It was very, very good. This is what people that live in homes on the streets of Glendale need. Now, this conversion, is it really necessary? I disagree. You need to first find out from different neighborhoods if there is a necessity. 4 conversions, that's too much. Then something else I wanted to say. Anyway, I was surprised that we got such a report that I could understand. I didn't understand anything on 5A, unfortunately. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. And I don't believe there was a question that to be responded to. So shall we move to the next item, please?
President Kadikian, members of the commission, if I may, I believe, and Catalina, if you can correct me, I think we have a hard stop at 5:30 because there's another commission meeting or another city meeting starting. And I'm concerned that we will run out of time for this item as well as oral communications. I don't know if we have any speakers planning to call in, but I just wanted to explore with this commission if we should move to continue this item or entertain a motion to do that or set a special meeting. I regret that. I'm just afraid that we may not have time to get through this and answer all of the commission's questions.
You're talking about the Glendale Energy Center environmental review?
Correct.
Are you proposing that we would defer that item to the next meeting?
That would be one option. Again, we do need to have oral communications if there are speakers, and I think it'd be good for this commission to cover agenda forecast, make sure we know what to present to you next month. That said, I know this is an item that I imagine this commission is eager to hear about, so I just don't think we can cover it in the time remaining.
Other commissioners, are you comfortable with pushing this to the next meeting, or do we want to have just a brief presentation with no comment, or what would you like?
I think we should schedule a special meeting. Given that we've missed a number of meetings, I would recommend that we schedule a special meeting so that Mark can make his presentation. We can take public comment, and all 5 commissioners would have the opportunity to ask questions. The CEQA process is complex, and this project is very important. So I think we should give it its due.
Okay.
I agree with Commissioner Law's comment.
So do I.
And Christine, would we schedule that in a couple of weeks or next week, or how does that work? Do we have to give a certain amount of notice for a meeting?
We definitely need to give 72 hours notice. I guess it's a question of finding a time that works for this commission and for the city's meeting schedule. So I don't know, Catalina, if you have any insight into how we could go about doing that.
So yes, I would need to take a look at the scheduled boards and commissions, and to see if there are any cancellations, and then if they are, then I will go ahead and send you an email letting you know what the tentative date and time will be, and then if everybody agrees, we'll go ahead and have the meeting at that time.
Does that sound good to all? Okay, thank you very much for that, and thank you, Sarojini, for that suggestion. I agree with you. It's a very, very important topic. We want to spend some time with it. So then, in terms of the next item, we're skipping over that item. What is the next item on the agenda? Is it oral communications?
So for oral communications, discussions are limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The general manager may refer the matter to the appropriate staff for investigation and report. And we do not have any speakers. Actually, yes, Victoria Valentine is back for oral communications. Victoria Valentine, you're on the air?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have just sent my letter by email, but for the last 7 years, I've been going to the city council meetings in attendance with all of the above individuals from each department concerning the polluted water that comes out of my kitchen faucet. This is the water my doctor told me to drink. There was no action from any of the city officials. Mr. Zern suggested to use vinegar. No, I do not want to drink vinegar. He did a good job with the power department. I developed digestion problems from his good water, however. He did respond to my question and had a gentleman call me about the water. I'm trying to find my way on the Glendale Water and Power site, but find no answers. It talks about spots on appliances. Yes, even this is damaging, but my concern is the internal injury, the residue in my cells, my veins, my arteries, my organs. There is no scale given. I'm told it's calcium. Is it really? Just because it's white, it feels like sand between my fingers. It does not dissolve in water. No, it's not from air bubbles. The city of Glendale is dishing out a pill called calcium. I have to report it to my doctor with the meds that I take. Calcium deficiency does not cause osteoporosis. CDC invented everyone vitamin D deficient, which is needed for calcium absorption. Why? Is there another real reason that CDC knows that we need D to digest calcium? There was no such problem for the decades that I have been residing here, please advise. It is very difficult for me to be calling. What is your mission? Big plans to meet the LA County or state changing requirements, but ignore the population that pay taxes and are entitled to water? Thank you.
Well, thank you for those comments. And we are all concerned about safe drinking water. That is for sure. That's our goal. Safe drinking water and reliable power sources. Are there other oral communications, Catalina? Or?
There are no other callers.
And the next item, please.
7A, agenda forecast.
Okay. Our commissioners, are there additional items that we would like to see on the agenda? Obviously, this the Glendale Environmental Center environmental review, secret review discussion is a special meeting. Are there other agenda items people would like to see? No, go ahead, Commissioner Jasmine.
I would like to see the water conservation as a way of life. Discuss what the current conservation levels are, how much more Glendale needs to do to meet those levels that are set out in the policy. The impacts of conservation on CIP, and I'm assuming with that there would be impacts on rates and hopefully lowering of rates. And also with conservation, the power use reduction that would occur within the city of Glendale because of the not needing to pump as much water to customers. So what would be the power savings there? And also impacts to recycled water in the city of Glendale.
Very good, very good. Christine, do we set a date for these, or do we just put them on the table and then let staff juggle them, or how do we do that?
Well, typically we would have two commissioners need to want an item on the agenda. So if there's a second commissioner that would be interested in hearing what sounds like a very valuable topic.
Well, I will certainly second that. If that's
great.
Okay.
And then I think let us have Assistant General Manager Mike DeGhetto let us know when he could bring that back, but certainly I think as soon as we could. Okay. If this commission has a preference, you want to see it by a specific date, then you can certainly weigh in on that as well.
Commissioner Jasmine Darian, do you have a preference on that? Is it?
No, it's
okay.
Whenever you can get all the information.
Whenever. Okay. Commissioner Kadikian, agenda items?
I have nothing in particular. Whatever's on the agenda seems okay with me at this point.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Lal?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to add the virtual power plant update. I know when I read the minutes, I remember saying we would sort of like to have an update every month on the status of the virtual power plant project, and it's been a couple months now. So I think that would be very good as an agenda item as well.
Absolutely.
And then there was also a discussion at one point several months ago about a new rate structure that GWP is adopting. Is that true or not? Are there new rates coming down the pike that we should know about?
President Flanagan, members of the commission, GWP is working on a cost of service analysis for rates associated with the clean energy programs and plan. Work is underway, but I don't think that staff is yet at a point where they're, showtime ready to report out on that. But certainly that's something that will come to this commission before that goes to council.
I see. So that the cost of service analysis flows into proposed rate changes based on that, so that we're not cross-subsidizing amongst customer classes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm not hearing any other items for the agenda at this time. I'm looking everybody in the eye virtually. So the next item, please.
Adjournment.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
I
Any-
second.
Second, thank you very much. Thanks to everybody for a great meeting. We'll look forward to the special session and then to the next month's meeting. At this time, Glendale Water and Power Commission is adjourned.